All right, everybody, welcome to today's call. It is Friday, my favorite day of the week, as you can tell from the energy and the really strong coffee. It is Friday, March 1st of 2019. This is the Realty Classroom sales training call, and soon to come on the screen with me directly, asked her to be in front of the camera today, is the one and only Laura Works. If you don't know her and you're seeing her come into the frame for the first time, Laura is my partner extraordinaire in all things real estate sales. And we had some really good, interesting conversation today that we wanted to share with you, or at least I wanted to extract from her to you, because I think a lot of the time, there is that excuse that we conjure up in our head that somebody else is different, they're unique, they don't necessarily have the same struggles that you have, whatever the case may be, that you end up kind of talking yourself out of the game, and that's not good. Can you get in there? You see that? Like, there you are. We're snuggling the sales girl, right? So let's just make sure this works that way. Is your chair lower than mine, or I just get taller?
You got taller. I built you up today.
Yeah, you did build me up today. Your energy work released me. And that's what we want to talk about. Is I think that there's a lot of you out there that just, I don't know what it is that Laura had some thoughts about it. Yesterday we had a mastermind, and it's difficult to try to crack the code on management. Here we are in the sales training call, and it's equally hard to kind of crack the code for you all in this context as well. But I think what's important to understand here is that we're you, we struggle, and we have to always go back to the plan. And I think that's important. And today we spent a good solid, almost like 3 hours by the time we were done talking about it. And we got deep into the concept of manifesting a bigger goal and how to do that. And for some people, at first blush, it feels corny to those that are extremely addicted to tactical. Right? That I just want to know what's the best website, what's the best lead source. And I'm smiling like a Cheshire cat because I'm thinking about a poignant moment for us where you referenced post-traumatic stress disorder in a very genuine way about the way that we used to make phone calls. And that was striking to me and bothersome. And again, why we need to get over it from a practical standpoint, we'll explain that to them. But maybe you could just start off with your thoughts about that. Let's go right after it. I mean, why do people get so stressed about following up on the phone? We'll get into also face-to-face, but definitely the phone. Because it's easy to default away. And what I noticed about some of the work that you and I do, I said, why are you defaulting towards text and emails at that very critical moment where we have to affect that outcome? And that's not the most effective medium. Well, it all became very obvious to me is that if subconsciously, even on the easier work, there's that trauma or that stress or that fear if somebody's never done it before, whatever. Mm-hmm. It manifests in a way that it takes you away from getting to your goal faster.
Yeah.
Okay. Speak to that for a second. Let me just share this. Well, I'm not rudely not looking at her while she's not, she's answering this, but it's more so let me just get her on camera here a little bit better. There she is.
There.
Oh yeah, there you are. And you look so much better, right? So the point there is that run with it from wherever you wanted to take that. But I think it's a really critical thing that you have dealt with, you are dealing with. And again, give background in case somebody's seeing this on YouTube or Facebook for the first time ever. They don't know your history in this business. So start there and then talk about how you started and why it caused this PTSD.
Well, I started 12 years ago just in strictly ISA/prospecting capacity. Mm-hmm. So my job was strictly to follow up with leads, prospects, not clients at that time, actually, leads and prospects until they were ready to sell or buy and book appointments with them. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I did that for 6 years straight, mm-hmm. and then took my hiatus when my oldest was born. And I think today, kind of jumping forward, it was really the first time I admitted or verbalized to you that I think the root of my current issue and why I have this block in making calls and prefer text and email is because of verbalizing. I kind of have some sort of post-traumatic stress from that, because
which we don't say that lightly. We're not trying to, I mean, we
no,
know there's a lot of people out there that suffer from true PTSD for reasons much greater than this,
for sure.
but having something be so difficult and painful in the past, it's very personal to everybody. And quite frankly, it can interfere with some really serious goal chasing too.
For
And
sure.
I just want to qualify that, because
No, it is important. And my job in the beginning, although I was successful, it was brutally innerly hard for me.
Yeah.
It was very out of character. I felt uncomfortable. My face would turn red. My palms would sweat. Like I'd have to be in a locked room. Like, and I just kept pushing through it. But it kind of, even though I got more confident over the years and it became easier, I still have that like, ooh, I just don't want to do it, because it was such torture.
We'll go back to, now let's go right there. What was torturous? I mean, you were young when you started this. So go take you to that young mindset. You don't know what you don't know. You're willing to do what you need to do to climb the ladder at that point. Talk about that mindset. And then let's talk about very particularly what the job was back then. I think that's important to share.
Well, my mindset back then was, I was very goal oriented. In my mind, my goal in that time frame was, I wanted to be the best inside sales agent that the Griffin Realty Group ever had. That was my true like North Star. And whatever it took to get there, you know, aside from the sweating and turning red, it was like, I have to do this.
A lot of people will say to me, that the people that know you and us the best will say, oh, you got so lucky when you found Laura. But I don't.
You did.
Yes, yeah, I did. She said, excellent. Yeah, so this is why she's on there. So, but that's true. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's sort of like, you know, Lee talking about Robin. There's that blessing that two worlds collide, that, you know, that can benefit each other dramatically. And so I do think it's important to recognize that. However, I also don't want people to use that as an excuse to explain away that finding partnership with somebody, even when they're young and inexperienced, but there are certain things that they should look for. You describe what do you think it is that made you persevere and desire to learn? What do you think it is about your makeup that you stayed with this for 12, 13 years now? What is the characteristic that somebody out there either should be exemplifying in their own behavior pattern, or they should be trying to hire for? What do you think?
Number one, they have to have a solid work ethic. I mean, if I didn't have that, there's no way I would have persevered through those hard times and the struggles of, you know, getting to the next version of myself along the way and keep climbing the ladder. I think you also need someone humble enough to be willing to learn and take criticism. You need someone that has vision, that has goals, and is really taking an honest effort to get to those goals and reach them, and be willing to put the overalls on. Yeah.
Goals. Let's put them in an order that probably would be, if they wanted to extract something from here and take it with them. Goals. Yep. That would be number one. The work ethic to go chase those goals.
Yeah, for sure.
But very importantly, the ability to take, and this has to be good constructive criticism. So the critique would be like, I don't know that I've always been good at giving constructive criticism.
Weren't in the beginning.
Right, because and I'll plead guilty, saying that when I also was more transactional, where this conversation is going to lead, there's that pressure to have everybody, you know, white knuckled trying to execute that plan. And we'll say why that we don't think that's necessary anymore, but certainly everybody's white knuckled, so you're doing it. So again, goal oriented, the work ethic to pursue those goals, but also the ability to take constructive criticism, to make adjustments. We talk about this in the very seller course all the time on this call too, where when you're speaking with a seller and you talk about the fifth stage after marketing, which is communication. When you're actually, we meet communication obviously happens throughout the process, but a communicative stage when you're making a market for a property is critical. It's no different here when we're trying to make phone calls. we're trying to listen to them. And that's why I say here, it's always best if somebody sends us a recording, because we listen to what's real. We don't, it's not theoretical. We don't make it up. Get me a recording. Let me hear what you were up against on the other side. Here's the constructive criticism. Don't say this, try this. See what you said there, it was a little bit off. The willingness really to just accept that for what it is. It's not even criticism, it's observation from somebody.
Course correction.
Correct, which is 100% necessary. And that's why we're talking about this on sales training. It's course correction because the consumer's the boss. And the guidance that I would give is trying to say, look, come on, let's stop pretending, or let me get down off any high horse that I might think I need to be on. Let me get down into the root of just being good, which I think is my skill set. Let me be a good observer of what's real, and let me give you my opinion on what I think the adjustment would be. Then you take those adjustments, you go out there. You're very good at that. You're very good at that. And so it's not, I don't want to turn people loose to think that this is some sort of a crazy constructive criticism that you're pounding on them. And that's not right. You, if you're going to lead somebody like this, needs to be, and you're in the throes of it now, you're hiring, and you know what you need to get done tactically and systematically. And so we're looking for that thing. Are you goal-oriented? Do you have a work ethic? And are you willing to listen to my critique and make course adjustments? I mean, there's your job description for anybody, right? So I think that's important. All right, cool. Taking it from there, looking back at it with today's lens, you didn't know what you didn't know, that it was difficult then, but perhaps you could take yourself back there and say, well, here's what I didn't like about it.
I felt an enormous amount of pressure to produce for the outside sales staff. It was a very big weight on my shoulders because they were, including you, were like birds looking for your next worm. Like, and why am I not producing them? And at that time, you were not as good of a listener to what I was getting over the phone. And it was because of my lack of just knowledge, and I think a lot of it had to do with my age, confidence. I didn't really grab you by the lapels and be like, no, you don't understand. Like the people and the consumer does not want it to be done this way anymore. You know, in hindsight, if I knew what I knew now and I could be that person back then, I probably would have shooken you and been like, listen, we got to change this.
And here's the advice to management brain from the beginning, knowing what we know now, knowing what this mastermind knows now, it becomes extremely critical. And this is what we talked about yesterday, was frustrating on the management call. Those Thursday calls for all you mastermind members have become very challenging because we are challenging that very thing right there. To be responsible, to become a better manager, to understand what you're supposed to be managing, how you're supposed to be managing, and who you're supposed to become, right? What, how, who. Try to remember that, somebody. Write that down. What, how, and who is very important, because if there's a change in me, it's the adherence to that Gerber tripolar mentality to say the fatty that's missing in the middle is management. And being humble enough to say, I don't know how to act like a manager. I know how to act like an entrepreneur. I know how to act like a technician, but I don't know how to act and behave with somebody well enough. And I'm not even moving in a better direction. So I think don't take that and delay it. We talked about this a lot too. Immediately act as if you are a better manager by being a better listener to what's real. I think you have to be careful as a leader also. You're not going to just let the tail wag the dog. If the assembly line is bringing back feedback, you can't just succumb to it, because then that becomes whimsical too. I think you have to listen. I think you have to process. And then I think you have to ask yourself, how is this affecting the systematic approach? Mastermind a little bit about it. Go back and forth, and people will support what they help create. So if it's a two-way conversation around what's changing, then people, like we did, why did we take 3 hours today to meet? We just kept talking. You moved back to your desk because something was happening. Growth and conversation were happening, and we were creating something together that we could co-support. Some of it made you uncomfortable, because you're going to go back on the phone in a certain context. I had to take some action steps, so we walked away talking what could be executed upon quickly and swiftly, right? Fair depiction of that? Okay. So that's the pressure was to produce, but now there's no pressure, okay, to produce. Because what I've done as a better manager is I have given you explicit permission to simply make a call and to tie it to this content that is truly and ultimately helpful to these people in that moment in time. And to say, don't call up trying to do anything more than say, we sent you this because you have this context. If you are able to get further than that, then to go there. And the reason why I feel like that is not, number one, I feel like it's a better strategy, that let's just be authentically what we say we are in these three villages that are our marketing avatar, okay? Let's be the resource truly to the people that we want to do business with, right? And we're not trying to say go be all things to all people. We want to make that clear to everybody here because we talked about that rigorously. We cannot save the world, so why don't we try to save or at least help the people that we are focused on, right?
Yeah.
And that's certainly for all of my mastermind members who get this now, it's certainly at the average or median number and north of that. If you want to run a better viable business, I'm not saying that you couldn't do a volume business at entry level. And if that's your shtick, absolutely go for it. I'm here to help. But for us, we are looking at something very different at the moment. That just happens to be us in this context. The global guidance is at any level that you just need to be cognizant to be authentically the person for others. Give them the sold properties that tell them what happened when they didn't. Give them the sold properties that could be the asset value for the probate. All of that, whether or not they're interested in pursuing a prospect relationship with you, right? Fair?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so there's the permission that you give this traumatized situation to go back and say, my expectations are just that. And then this measurement capability say, look, I want you to keep track of how many you made, how many you spoke to, and what the result was, right? So that we can hear it and we can challenge it. Because listening to that Joe Rogan podcast that I was talking about today, I liked what he said, is that we know that that work has to get done in this business. You have to make phone calls in this business. You have to talk to people on the phone or you're going nowhere. Okay. It is the priority. Still, I don't care how much digital has happened. Talking to somebody on the phone is where a lot less is lost in translation, right?
Well, I think too, forcing myself into this will help me be a better manager to when we have a prospect.
Exactly. To get rerouted in it. But my thought about Rogan was, he said, the minute you let too much time lapse from what must get done, it becomes really strange, scary, weird, traumatic when you begin to step back into it.
And that's exactly where I said I am.
Correct. So anybody, this is why she's on camera saying this transparently, like as if we don't have these challenges, right?
We do.
So I think it becomes very, very important to sit still and say, what is the smallest move you could make and put a toe in the water? And I think the good news is that's very, very real. And you can do it. Which Rogan podcast are you referring to? I love his podcast. Bridget, I don't remember the exact episode. I think it's more one of the motivational pieces, because when I'm at the gym, I listen to the motivational pieces that get put together. So it's more one of those where he's simply referencing that moment that if we let that thing that we have to do atrophy, it's just harder to start, but you still have to start. In this business, you don't have a choice. You have to go back and do these things. So when we meet, we're saying, what haven't each of us done to execute this plan that we're at? And that all stimulates itself from yesterday. We talked about goals as they relate to, like, you can't have a GCI goal and not relate it to marketing. Can't really, and not related to sales activities. You have to execute your marketing and sales activities to match the pursuit of the goal. Okay?
For sure.
Anything else you want to add to this, or we want to open up these mics? Get it rolling.
One thing that I think, kind of going back to yesterday's call, that really struck me is because it was painful, I think, for your mastermind people. Maybe even hard to listen to, just very easy to disengage or shut down. I think for you to really understand in a very broad sense, like, being the person looking down at your business, figure out those stats within your marketplace is really the only way you're going to educate yourself on how to make your financial goals.
Why?
Because you have to know, like, where the meat of the vast majority of the sales are happening, and it will help, I think, kind of give you that North Star to understand that maybe your stretch goal is actually not really that far of a stretch if you market and target the right type of.
For those of you that will go back and watch the recording, I'm going to flip my whiteboard that's behind me in the recording. Don't worry I'd rather you participated verbally. Don't worry about this. I just want to get it into the recording because I want to show you that when Laura and I talk, oftentimes I'll go to the board to manifest the physical or the visual of this. A bell curve is a distribution. Let me just make sure this is going the right way. So a bell curve is a distribution of what's actually happening in the marketplace. So as I said the other day, one of the most important things that we can do is figure out things like the median price. First of all, you have to make a decision on a geography. Too many people in sales are not making a decision. And they're saying, well, I'm licensed in Massachusetts. I'd go wherever to get a check. We get that. Okay, yeah, we get that. But in trying to get you away from that, to try to help you pull away from that nonsensical way of doing business, because it's dangerous. We've done it. They do it. But to get away from it, it just doesn't take that much work. And I think it's about being specific. Like, for example, when I first started this business, it was Cape Cod. I'm going to Cape. Where am I going? Anyway, you know what I mean? And I did. And then when I became a marketer, a naive marketer, salesperson combo. Selling, I can do it anywhere. Put me there, I'm good. But if you want to reach these GCI goals, and you just start hustling transactions, all your decisions, your subconscious and everything begins to make bad decisions that are based on transactions. They're not even based on what you want.
Like the radio and TV.
Radio, TV,
that
these
was
massive,
the worst.
well, these massive mediums. Well, see, people think that they're not, but these are massive media distribution channels that for some brands are absolutely right if that's their goal. But for the real estate agent to be much more targeted, to be much more focused is everything, right? Now, as we work through here, people will ask, and I'll say the best that we know at this moment is that to target it, I would say you're looking for something around 50 to 75,000 people and maybe 1,000 to 2,000 sites. Okay. Yeah. I think an area within which to see those transactions and to calculate the median, okay, which is the middle number, or the mean, which is the average, to calculate those, it's very important.
Yeah.
Right. Very important, because that is, if you can market to be, and this is crazy when we say this, like it bothers us at a different level now, but it bothered us back 5 years ago when we looked at the fact that we were performing extraordinarily well at a transactional level.
Yeah.
But isn't money what makes the income statement you work, right?
Yeah.
So the delusion and being irresponsible as salespeople is that you can get there, wherever that may be, up here, and you can't. You have to program yourself, which is a very, very simple part of planning, which is the passion of the Realty Classroom. Simple part of planning is to say, how much do you want to gross? Forget about netting and what it'll expense. You can't even get there. How much do you want to gross? Where do you want to gross that?
Yeah.
And is it real? And that's it. Anything to add to that before I get to some particulars, or I'm going to keep going?
No, keep going.
Okay. So number one, what we did was we first said, okay, let's get out of this mentality that we're going to call everybody on Cape Cod.
Yeah.
Let's get off the mentality that we're supposed to throw blood in the water in this huge ocean. Distress sales, foreclosures, all those things. Again, I have no problem. If you are somebody that works with investors and that makes sense, then that's your business plan. Then we're good with that. And that makes sense to us too. However, I think what's really important to understand here is that that wasn't our business plan, but we were behaving that way. So we start off by saying, look, Laura, we live in the town of Barnstable. The office is in the town of Barnstable. How many people live here? I don't even think either one of us could have answered that 5 years ago. 46,000 people, permanent residents, and it explodes in the summertime, right?
Yeah.
Nobody can track that because of the transients. But there's 46,000. The next thing was, okay, great. How many transactions are there? And then we went in, and not only did we do the transactions in the X-Mind, but we also went further to find out, and we found out that there was more than 1,000 transactions in our very own town with 46,000 people, which is a little bit more rural. This is not a city, so it's not dense. So there was much more of a spread. Then we said, what is the median and what's the average? And we're waiting for our village average. But right now, the Cape Cod average, which at least we can build this model off of, $569,000 average on Cape Cod because of all the luxury, right? And then a median number last 2 years ago, 412, we're waiting for that updated number. And I say we're waiting because Serena's going in and giving us these updated numbers where it gets even more specific. Why? Our brains, we understand that the more crooked the number, meaning the more real it is, 417,658. The brain says, aha, that's the number. And it latches onto it. And then every time you go to sell or market, you're cognizant of where you stand. Because every time you're off of that number and the commission rate you know you're able to achieve, those are the two key numbers that you get off of. Okay? Now watch how I tie this to her fear and anxiety about phone work. Watch how I tie this. Because this is how you overcome it tactically, okay? Is that now you have these numbers where you have the 412 and the 569, okay? And we took a look at our average today, and albeit extraordinarily higher than we used to be 5-6 years ago, still way off of where we're even moving to now, right? And our anger and frustration, anger is the wrong word, frustration, is that we're going too linearly in that direction. And we're not quantum leaping into the game that does really exist. See, now once you look at median and average, you get curious. And what happens when you get curious, you look out to the max. Who is the #1 volume GCI producer as an individual and as a company? That really is a smelling salts moment. Because what you see is what's possible. I'm not saying that you need to think today that it's possible. You should, for you. You should say, why not me? Like Lee, Voltaire, Gail, etc. I could go on. I'd name all the mastermind members. Why not me becomes that thing that you become aware of. However, all I wanted you to do was simply ask, is it possible in the marketplace I've chosen where I'm now aware of median and average? And the answer for us is, not only is it possible, but it's become painful because we just drove by 6 of them and it wasn't us. Right?
Exactly.
And some of those are 10x the deals that we're mixing in at a distribution where we're not marketing to. We get some friends and family and we still take care of everybody that comes. But that can be a problem if it's not counterbalanced by 10x at the other end. Okay? So thoughts? I cover everything there?
Nope, you did.
Okay, good. All right. So we'll open up the mics. I'll take this anywhere you want, which would include scripting. But the very point is how she's going to now get over that trauma of that old painful way we did it is to simply reconnect, more importantly, to her goals. And she is goal-oriented. We said this. The ideal agents or inside sales agents are goal-oriented. They have the work ethic to pursue that in a realistic, persistent way. And ultimately, they can take feedback about adjustments that are necessary. So if you're hiring or you need to look for the better qualities in yourself to be more effective, there's the top 3, okay? But every time now that you take a look at your financial goals, which we wrote down, and one is big and one is even way bigger, right? Now that those things are there, watch what happens so that we can share with them and make note of the actions that you prioritize and begin to take, okay? There's your point. Once that's there, she sees that new financial goal and it's big enough, and then there's a stretch that's really big, it just triggers the actions that must be made and you reprioritize. Because my critique and adjustment for her recently was, don't get caught up in just doing transactions which is a way of the past. And I mean, she's still executing a much better plan. We're following up with different people that came from marketing. But if you don't reprioritize where we're not yet, and we know we're going,
we're never going to get there.
You got it. Bingo. All right, let's open them up and let's see what we got. Remember, *6 your mic or mute it so we don't get blown up here with background noise. Best if you don't have background noise, but we want to hear from you today. Okay, please. I'm asking for participation. We work hard at this. We work hard to share it as well as we can. And your feedback and conversation with us is like blood in our bloodstream. Okay. All right. Anybody want at this with her first?
Hey, Danny, I'll jump in if nobody wants to jump in right away.
You're it.
Okay, so I totally get what you're saying, and you and I have had the same conversation for weeks now.
Yep.
All that being said, not having the pressure to book appointments for yourself or for necessarily for someone else, but creating the relationship and moving them forward. How do you balance that with still keeping up with incoming new leads if you have a lead gen platform, say Sync or you name it? So you have leads coming in. You have a pile of prospects. There's some good ones in there. And then you have your, super high prospects, your 30 or 50 or 100 that you're paying massive attention to. How do you keep up with the new stuff, or do you just shut it off?
You take that.
Well, your high priority prospects are definitely going to be the number one priority. And then with leads, if you don't have the capacity to go after those or prioritize them by money, meaning the highest price range would be the highest priority, then I would either shut it down or find someone to fill that job, would be my suggestion.
Yeah.
It's like, I find I am not good at what I just said. I'm working on getting better at it, especially after our meeting today, but really focusing on the tasks, the calls, the action steps, the tactical stuff, whatever it takes to get us to the goal. I really like to think of it the reach goal. I want to go that far out.
Well, I think you have to do that. I mean, I think if there's anything I'll give,
need a really high target.
Yeah.
Because
why do you think that though? I want to know why you, and then I'm going to give you what I've learned recently, why I actually think that's necessary.
Because when you have that high goal, I think it reprograms you internally in your subconscious to prioritize in itself to reach that goal.
Yeah.
And it manifests that, because the universe wants to manifest what you focus on. So if you're focusing on tasks and calls and appointments that are closer to reaching that goal, it's gonna keep going. Yeah.
Okay. So Paul, here's what's interesting about what she's saying. And for those of you that might be hearing kind of this stuff for the first time, I think I'll warn you, do not dismiss what you're hearing here.
Yeah.
Like, this is 20 years worth of work to figure this out, right? Yeah. For me and the rest of my life, furthermore, about mindset. And Lee, I just did a podcast all about Lee's business, his ability to triple his sale price. And then yesterday be upset that that's still way light for where he lives, right? And so what I think that is, Paul, it's the adherence to what we know from people like Aristotle via Brian Tracy's book Goals, that the people that do not write the goal down and they do not stretch the goal, what they miss is the opportunity to tap into this resourcefulness that they don't even know they have. So the way, the question of what to do is to ask yourself, why not me, Paul? And this I'll come back to the practical question you asked, but I think this is really the important foundation. You first have to say what to do is to, ask yourself, why not me? Why can I not only be the best in my area, but why can't I go beyond and create something much bigger than anybody's dreamed of? Okay. Yeah. And the number one thing to do is why not me for all of that? But then it comes back to how, which drives people crazy about goals. If you go look at the thought du jour that I just posted, it's like, hey, how's your New Year's goal going? Right? How's it going? And everybody sort of laughs because what's happened to that goal is it's gone and it disappeared. And people say, well, I don't have the time. And Paul, I jumped on a paradigm yesterday about this, where I went on and I said, look, if you don't, and by the way, there's other people on here like Tony and you and Lee and people that have teams that do this. I think the disconnection with the team of people making this call is they're not connected to the goal of the primary, team leader, owner, partner, totally disconnected. So they're out there and they're expected to do this thing and they're not even connected to why they're doing what they're doing and how that relates to a symbiote yes to them. It
has to be related to them. The biggest reason why I love working with you is because I feel that our goals are intermeshed.
Yeah.
And that I don't work for you, I work with you, and that we're moving this thing together.
Yeah, for sure.
So if
doubt.
I didn't feel that
there's no empowerment
partnership, then I would have quit a long time ago, and I never would have called you to come back when I moved home from Hawaii.
Right, because there's no empowerment in that. There's no true authentic. So Paul, let me come back to this. What Laura and I reconnected today on was, she said, I'm beginning to see again clearly what we're doing, and we stretched it, we talked about it, but how does that relate to my goal, Danny? I think my goal is too small. I said, absolutely. Look, Paul, if I'm going to get there for myself and her goal is too small and she's the key person shoulder to shoulder with me, we're dead, both of us. So I think going back to your question, it's like, I think you still have a management problem in the base of that question. And you're still asking it from the lens of a technician. And let me give you an alternative viewpoint through the lens of a manager that I think you need to see it as. If you look at your problem, you just said, how in the world do you prioritize when you have all this stuff? Well, we are the very creators of the problem. You are, Paul. I am. When we make a marketing decision that we are going to get buyer leads, I haven't even touched upon whether those are the right people who fulfill the goal. But you watch how fast you edit out. Should I stop buying leads was the question, inherent or at least part of it in there. I'm not even going to say that. What I'm going to say is, well, first of all, I want you to tell me what the average and middle number are in the zip codes in the areas in Seattle where you really want to do business. And I want to know your GCI goal and how many transactions you need. I can't, as your consultant, answer you, in an intelligent way until I know what you want. Because then the first thing I'm going to say is, okay, now let's go back and look at the sync platform where new leads are coming in. We're not even at conversion capacity yet. We're still in marketing as a manager saying, okay, great. Of the leads that you got in the last 30 days, let's take a sample. What is the average value of the property that they're looking at?
That's a good question.
What is the area within which they're looking? And does those two beats align with your marketing strategy? Period. Right? It becomes so stupid simple, because the minute you see that, Paul, you will make the decision to change. And that's what, if Lee's on here today, he can speak to this, because he said it the other day. He said the minute that he went through the same exercise, he noticed, and I did the whole podcast, the most recent podcast is all about Lee's story. If you go in there, listen, he was in North Potomac doing an enormous amount of buyer business that was at the lowest end of his general area at about 300,000. I know somebody listened to this going, oh my gosh, I'd love 300. I only do 100. It's all relevant, relative. But the point is, when he simply said, I would rather be where my office is and where I live, Bethesda, all of a sudden it was staggering to say, when he looked at the average price in that area, it was 750,000, more than 2 times the average he was achieving through his platform. So, right. So the easy answer, Paul, for him, because he took a management lens, was, why in the world am I spending ad spend then on this when I could pick that ad spend up? Nobody said get rid of the platform. Nobody. There's too many people in there looking. who he could go in and vet and say, are they at a median or average number that still serves my goal? So what if they're next door in North Potomac? I don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. They might still help me hit my goal, but I'm going to segment that list. And this is what, and this is, hey, Gail, your mic's open. And this is what, Paul, I have suggested all along to all of you. You take a hard look at that and say, is this business in alignment with what I want as a business person? Because you cannot save and help every buyer or seller. You must make a decision that's strategic, that also underlyingly serves your business at the same level. Okay, Paul, that makes sense?
I mean, I totally hear you and agree with what you're saying. It's just, yeah, I'm good.
Okay, but you got it. I hear the disturbance in the brain and I like it. What are you thinking? What would you do?
Not exactly what I asked, but no, I agree with what you're saying. It's just, I need a more practical, succinct response to the actual question, which was, I'm not talking about whether I should get rid of them. I'm not talking about, I mean, I do know the median and the average and in the areas. I just need to know, like, if you don't have ISA help at the moment and you don't have the capacity at the moment to grab that, and you have what you have, and I have a special situation where I am not paying for these leads and the person who is refuses to move those monies elsewhere, so there's no reason for you to turn it off. I just need to know, should one allocate the people that are
hang on, Paul.
Go ahead.
Ask it. Somebody had an open mic. Go ahead. Ask it, because I gave you the answer, but I want you to hear yourself ask the question, and I'll point to where the specific answer was. Go ahead. Ask the question very explicitly.
I understand that we need to hyper focus or laser focus on the people that are the most likely to get us a sale in the next 12 months. Assigned to Laura, assigned to Paul, and then the prospects that we're trying to get into that queue, even, focus on them. And, of course, we have to allocate some time to expireds if that's an avenue we're chasing. But then there are still leads coming in. So is it about blocking out, okay, I'm going to do this for 90 minutes and then, okay, well, I'll just devote 30 minutes a day to leads, or, just kind of structuring your day more in terms of what call, does Laura have time blocks, I guess, for certain different types of prospects? And
stop. I got it.
You still get leads.
I got it. Stop. Because otherwise you're going to reiterate. Hold on. You're going to reiterate the same question again, and I don't want you to get lost in your own question, because it's an excellent one. It's a time management one about how we do this, and I have said this many times before as the answer. I absolutely 100% think every smart business person on this phone call or listening to this should start working their assembly line right to left. You build an assembly line left to right, meaning you do marketing, you find people, you convert them, you bring them through closing, you birth them into the most important place ever, your past client community. So what I would say is, if you don't put a touch on your most likely to repeat or refer past clients, you should start there. You should put a touch, along with your closing department, on anybody who needs extra love while they're closing, to make sure that they know you're right there. And then you would come in and put a touch on your clients. And then you would go to your most important prospects, the people who are closest to becoming a client, then your longer term prospects, and then your leads. If you are going to do this correctly and in a disciplined fashion, that's the direction. Why? It is the priority of the way that we all know that this business really works. There is not a person that's been in this business long enough that says, well, most of my business comes from past client referral, et cetera, like they're bragging about it, or they poo-poo leads. If you have been worth your salt during a transaction, you have created enough people who like you enough to repeat or refer. So your business comes from there. But for most of you, and not you anymore, Paul, because you've been doing this, you have to go there first. Those are your babies. Women get this far better than we do, Paul. You've just birthed babies into the past client community. They must be attended to. And that doesn't take a lot of time because that group is nowhere near as big as this massive dump of crap called internet leads. So if you prioritize going on to the dump to find Lazarus at the bottom of it, and you didn't start where you know you have relationship, you've made a business mistake. So now, depending on how much time it takes you to touch those past clients, check in with the closing department and those people, deal with your clients who are really in the heat of becoming close to a deal, clients who might be longer out, then prospects in that same way, then leads, you're out of order. Period. You're just out of order. Now, the problem is that sounds like a lot of work in the course of each day. So you're saying, but I don't even get to my leads. Aha, you have a problem. That needs a different kind of solution. Why? Can you leverage getting to your past clients in a different way than one-to-one? Yes. Get that past client newsletter out. Get a voice broadcast out. Then on the property anniversary, let's just say you have 500 good, clean names. It's only going to take you a couple calls a day. Not even. Right? Just to put a touch on them. So there are ways that in each module, as you're working back, you're leveraging time. Okay? You're leveraging it. But the more personal you can be with the people that like you and trust you the most, the better the business will thrive. So that gets you all the way back to the beginning. So Paul, I want you to hear me give you that answer. It is extremely clear. I am not mincing, my words here. I am telling you right away, past clients, closing, clients, prospects, leads.
And maybe block your day out.
Like that.
Like in that order.
Yeah. So if you need to put a touch on every one of those, there's enough time in the day to do it. And what you will do by doing that is learn the pressure of time. And where could you have leveraged it better in any one of those things, right? I will now give the answer that I'm trying to give about leads. When you work it that way and you're not getting there, what it reveals to you quickly is, where am I at with my own capacity? If I'm doing it myself or my team's doing it, it makes you think about capacity. And if you now go back to the leads that you just got, bought, or are trying to get for yourself, which we teach our agents, please don't go near the internet first. Get physically in an open house so that the number of leads is limited to the sign-in sheet. The number of prospects can be defined quickly, and clients can be birthed from there, right? So we teach our agents, please do not get caught up in massives before you are in focusts, right? Yeah. Paul, are you clear on my answer there? Because I'll stay with it because I think it's critical.
No, I mean, that's what I'm doing. That's the priority. That's the priority, and that's the order of things. My question was just, does Laura still call leads every day, or do you guys not? Are you guys getting any just focusing on past clients and prospects?
No, she doesn't. But does that mean we're not going to call them? We are obsessing over getting somebody to call them. So what we did in the meantime is we rely on direct mail to do some of it for us, and our marketing, direct response. But you heard me say today that she is going to call the most cherry leads that are in line with the business that we want, Paul. So yes, she's going to go in there because our capacity has been squeezed. Our ability to find somebody, by the way, if you're listening on the internet, we're looking for somebody, right? Our inability to find the right person to call leads is our number one concern. But in the meantime, the business continues to run, I wouldn't say thrive because we're trying to grow it, but it continues to run in line with what we expect. And she's going to go back into leads, but very targeted leads only that are supported by the direct mail stuff. So we are not bringing in any internet leads at the moment. We don't have the capacity, and we're far better off with what we're doing, and then we'll arrive back there. All right, dude, now I've given you very specific answers. If you didn't hear me, you and I are going to go in the octagon together. Those are very specific answers.
No, I mean, that's all I was asking was what the day looked like and what the priority was. And the main question was whether she's still calling leads, and the answer is no, because you're not getting any internet leads. So I got it. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Because it's a good question. Because I think people are delusional that you think you have to run your business off of internet leads. I would love to go back and crack the code, which I'm doing. So all of you beta testers at Realty Cast that are using, that are getting onboarded with us at the website company, I'm obsessed with getting a better internet lead, but I'm obsessed with getting it the right way. So I'm testing very explicit language in my Google ads, going to very explicit video assisted opt-in pages. So we're really trying to, Paul, go back there and get far less people to opt in. But those who do really want what we have next. That make sense?
Yeah. I had you muted.
That's okay. All good. All right. Anybody else want to follow up on those questions or go further? Tony, I know I referenced you, so if you wanted to jump in on that, feel free to do so.
Hey, I got a quick question for you.
Fire.
Laura said early in the call she felt tremendous pressure from the sales team. Was that self-inflicted or was that from the actual team?
Both. It was my own pressure because I wanted to be successful and do the job the best I could. But I also had agents breathing down my neck asking me for appointments and when their next appointment would be.
And remember, that was a model that we don't follow anymore because we're here we're here to, well, I just want to say it for the rest of the crowd, we're here to empower our agents, and the appointments that the core team would put together are for the core team. Right? That's what we do. We're more interested in going out and getting good, solid listings and sharing those with our agents where they can do what we said. We believe there's a better way to do business, and we're sticking to the plan. Good question, though, Dean.
I like to hear Laura's own internal struggles because it kind of helps give me a little bit of clarity with questions to ask when I'm speaking to other people.
Yeah, and I want to go back and reiterate that I think you, amongst several of the other core members that have been around a long time, you say you're blessed to have her. Yes, we check that box, but I don't like to leave it there because I think people that are out there have the characteristics that Laura and I share. 1, goal orientation. 2, an intense work ethic to pursue those goals. But 3, the willingness to be able to accept constructive criticism from each other, from the clients, from the community, from the marketplace, from our mastermind, and make adjustments. I think those are key 3 things, right? Goal orientation, work ethic, and the ability to adjust. I mean, I think.
Yeah, I like the way you made that adjustment when you were talking about it. When Laura went through her list and you adjusted it and said you kind of took the humility out of it and encompassed that in that ability to take constructive criticism. So I like the way you position that.
Yeah, well, because what I'm looking for always. Whoops. Hang on. Something came in hot in San Diego. So what I'm looking for always is I'm looking for that formula, Dean. Because knowing that I get these questions in the one-on-one consultations, I'm looking for these formulas to extract. Like if you're Paul Cantu, and we have new members in here, Laura Reckmeyer, we have the Nadeau team. We have a lot of people that are looking for these characteristics that they're going to have to extract for themselves, and that is, you have to have a goal written down. And you have to know where you're going to achieve that goal. And you have to know if it's reasonable based on the statistics out of what we already pay for. MLS, that's about as basic as any realtor could get in Canada or the United States. Doesn't matter. That's universal, Dean, right? So those characteristics, you have to tie into those characteristics or you won't get there. You won't get there. Dean, that would be for you or I in running the business as the global manager too, as the entrepreneur. You have to know what you want from this business financially. You have to be willing to work at it, go in and get it, and you have to just constantly make the adjustments when you're off course. That's it. I'm going to put that in the recruiting ad. I'll tell you right now. As soon as this is over, one of the adjustments I will make is go back into the 2 recruiting ads and I will adjust what you are because it keeps refining itself. That's what it is, right? But that's a good observation that you made. What else?
Yeah, good. Update that ad and then post it because I didn't have enough time to scribble it all in, but that was really good.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Dean? That's the greatest thing about having something memorialized. I continue to go back to wherever what we learn on these calls needs adjustment, and we just make slight ones. That's why we did the Teachable site, for all the mastermind members, as we move you all to that platform. It's so that in the very moment you have the best practices, right? That's the key.
Yeah. Get those most up-to-date ads posted in that Teachable site, and just keep updating them now, because that was a really good distinction right there.
Yep, exactly. Cool. Yeah, I'll work on recruiting today. In fact, I'll put it up there in the expansion module. So awesome. What else? Good feedback from you and Paul. Come here, some of you mastermind members or team members, come on in here. And I can shift gears here. We've got Laura. If you want to get tactical, you want to role play something, you want to talk about, scripting, all that stuff is fair game on the sales call. But I thought it was really important for you to hear from somebody who has done this job for a long time, to hear the ups and downs and adjustments, right?
Hasn't always been pretty.
Yep. Come on, guys and gals, take me in any direction you want. Got a whole bunch of people on the call today. Go a little bit more time.
Okay. Hey, Danny.
Hi, Charlie. Go ahead, buddy boy.
I don't know if this is appropriate. It's kind of way out there, but I just sold a house in a community away from where I live, and I got a call from another agent saying they needed to know about the sales price, blah, blah, blah. And it just triggered that from every home that I sell, I should get 2 other listings or another listing from it. And then I started remembering Proctor about, what's your home worth, and maybe walking around the neighborhood and telling people that I just sold this home. I can sell your home if you want a market evaluation, blah, blah, blah. So kind of piggybacking on that, in the community where I live, I don't have any listings yet. And I can use listings from my office that sell overpriced and sell quickly. And I was thinking of just sending out, walking the neighborhood or sending out postcards to what's your home worth, and we just sold this home overpriced for, in 7 days over asking price.
I got you. Hang on. I got you.
Yep.
I got you.
So
I
go
got you.
ahead.
Are you asking, is the question, should you do that?
Yeah, well, yeah. Should I do it? And then what's the postcard you can send me that would give me the language to put some content together in a postcard or a letter?
Funny you should ask that. Yeah, funny you should ask that. I just went back to what was once, something that we did, and it's still something that we do, which is exactly what you're saying. I actually have it up on my screen for myself, so I'll read it to you. I know we're not, on the screen today, but it says, what's your home really worth? So if there's one change after the forever, what's your home really, the word really, because there's all this online algorithmic stuff that is at best much less efficient than a realtor, he said. Let me explain that. If you use big data only online to try to guesstimate the value of a property, the stated variance is around 20% from the algorithmic-based companies. They're trying their best to shorten and squeeze that. But yet, if you think about, this is why I think knowing your market stats is important. I think if you look at and again, Charlie has moved to a new community, so that's why he doesn't have listings there yet. So San Bernardino, California, moving out of the valley. So Charlie, when you arrive up there, I think it's important to also know, to back that up, that you can do this better than an algorithmic guesstimate, is that you're going to know the ask to sold ratio. So see, realtors and the market that we make with each other to sell properties, on average, your middle and average number is going to vary very little from the asking price. The final sale price is going to, vary very little. So in other words, meaning what? If the average sale price in the mountains is $512,000, okay, and all these sales have happened, and the average sold price to asking price, or asking price to sold price, I got that backwards. Sold price to asking price is, say, 99%. Well, how efficient are we as realtors? The variance from the ask to the sold is 1%. Go a little bit further, 2.5%, 3%, 5%. Even at luxury, where it's tough on Cape because it's less, it's 11% variance. So the truth is, this is a very genuine offer to say, why would you rely on an online algorithmic guesstimate when realtors ourselves in general are way more efficient in establishing value as a marketplace. And I'm a guide within that context. Let me guide you to try to help you start right. So you have a very, very powerful offer that is the obvious.
Would you say it would be better for him to send?
Well, Danny,
Hold on, Charlie. Laura's responding. I want to hear what she says.
Okay. Go ahead, Laura.
Would it be better for Charlie to send this postcard, What's Your Home Really Worth, or just sold and incorporate?
That's where I'm going to the next side.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is the ultimate dual offer includes that one, and there's its thorough explanation. However, I think it's obvious to all of us that on the buy side of this business, buyers want for sales. So how do you look at the sold side, the listing side, the same way? Solds. It's that stupid simple. So whether the Charlie has this just listed, just sold, there's a curiosity that everybody in the neighborhood has as to what's really happening. Like my single largest financial massive value and curiosity around these sold prices.
For sure.
So if I walk, let's say I door knock Charlie. Let's say I make a just sold flyer, and I get a whole bunch of them made, whether you owned the listing, whether you didn't own the listing, whether you just took the solds out of MLS, which you have the right to do, and delivered them as an information product door to door. It is the insightful information that anybody in that neighborhood wants. Much more powerful at the extreme if it's your listing that you sold. Next, your office.
Yeah.
Third, what's just generally happening in the MLS. And your ability to bring that to people and say, I don't know if you're thinking of selling or not, but this one down the street, and here's some others that's in the last 30 days, market's pretty good. Do you or anyone know, are you thinking about selling? Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
Would I do that? And then it's just a question of time and medium. If you're brand new into an area like you and Doug Winters are, then get your walking shoes on and hit the bricks and deliver the information in a professional package that has an introductory letter and why you're giving this. It's a free service, okay, for San Bernardino. No, what am I saying? Santa Barbara. Sorry, I keep saying it wrong.
Santa Barbara,
free service for Santa Barbara homeowners. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It is a list of properties that have sold. By the way, if you're thinking about selling inside the next 12 months, I'd be happy to automate this service for you by putting you into the MLS. Absolutely would I do that. Absolutely. Now, could you deliver it via postcard? Yes. Will I give you the one that's hot off the press? Yes. All the mastermind members, you have access to it anyway. So yes, I will give it to you. It's literally sitting in front of me, and we just sent it for the very first time. It has those two offers on either side, which was what we all went away from. What's your home really worth? And what are the homes in your neighborhood selling for? Those are two angles with which you can begin the discussion. I want to hit one more highlight for you. Listings marketing is one of the most overlooked subjects in guidance business, right? That I'm in. Okay. What I mean by that is that your lack of time and attention to taking a listing that you have and promoting it and pushing it is not just to the benefit of the seller, it's to your benefit also. Here's what's just listed. Maybe you're thinking of selling. You want to know what yours is worth? Because here's what this is worth, right? And then at the sold end, that's success marketing. It goes even further. It's not just listings marketing, it's also success marketing. Not only did I list it, I was successful. So now the testimonial that you need is simply the word SOLD. I did this.
Yeah.
And I can do this for anybody else in this neighborhood. So you're parlaying that content, also known as your listing, and you're getting it out there around these universal offers that are the same for every seller. Chunk it up to the most universally appealing offer. What are the homes around you selling for? What's your home worth? Those are the two best ones you can have, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
This is a small thing, just but leveraging the most recent sale that may actually translate into their home being worth even more than they thought. Is that worth running with, or is that
that's
just
language.
understood?
That's language. You can certainly, and if I go back to the board behind me when we talked about this a couple times on helplines and mastermind, direct response marketing has that sense of urgency to it. Your home could be worth more than you think in 2019. That gives it time frame, right? Did you know that home sellers are getting more in the first quarter and the second quarter, the first half of the year in Santa Barbara than they are in the second half? Those are all enhancements. And again, root them in the truth, right? Don't make it up. Root them in the truth. But you can have expiring offers. Those are all things that trigger people to actually make a response, whether they take action, now or later. Those are real triggers that get people to actually get in a conversation. So just a quick review of some of that direct response best marketing. Again, I think just good marketing. A question always enters the conversation that's going on already in your ideal prospect's mind. What's my home really worth? Why is that talking to your direct prospect? Somebody who's thinking about buying in the next 12 months is thinking, what's my house really worth? And they're also thinking, what are these neighborhood houses selling for so I can compare mine? So that ideal client is thinking that stuff. So provoking them, into that stuff, you're just talking about enhancements. Be careful not to stray. See, what I've seen with marketing, Charlie, that provokes a sales conversation, it strays away from that core conversation and gets weird fast, right? And I mean that about USP. Yeah. USP marketing is nowhere near as effective as entering the conversation that's going on in somebody's mind. Nowhere near as effective. You can use it to enhance it. Hey, look, now that I'm sitting in your house, it sounds like you're not convinced. Give me 60 days, and then if you're not satisfied in 60 days, I'll let you cancel. That's a performance guarantee that can enhance a unique selling proposition. I think a unique selling proposition is, look, you want to find out what your home's really worth? Pricing it right is one stage of 7. What's unique about me is I have a plan for you. And all these factors factor into that. So I think you can't forget why you're there, but you also have to give them what you want to provoke that conversation. Make sense?
Yeah, great, Danny. Good.
In other words, Charlie, you're not going to door knock in Santa Barbara with your home seller course as your primary way to provoke conversation. You're not. It's not what they want. That's what they need. They need that when it's go time. No doubt about it. But what they want inside that 12 months is to know what their house is worth and what's going on in the neighborhood, period. Give them a heavy dose of that. That's a conversation starter around what they want. Your offer is, hey, it looks like you are going to do something inside of 12 months. Let me get you direct access. And you're buying, I'll get you the direct access to 4 sales out of MLS in addition to solds. Oh, by the way, here's my 7-step plan. You might want to take a quick look at that because that's really what you'll need when it's go time. See how the order of things matters?
Yeah, great.
All right, got it?
Okay, all right, Dan.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you,
question.
Appreciate it.
All right, everybody, listen, appreciate it today. My guest, the one and only redhead, Laura Works. There she is, laying bare her fears and her challenges. Hopefully you learned from her and you go out and you practice. If you came in late, no worries. It's all recorded up on Facebook and up on YouTube. You can get there for all your mastermind members. It will be in the folder that you're looking for. We'll see you on the other side. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, Dan.
You bet.
Thanks, Danny.
You bet. Take care.